Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to try something kind of different, and I just got this in the mail. I think it's some pastels, and I think it'd be fun to open it up, take a look at it, and then create artwork with it. Kind of like a sight unseen type thing. So what I have here is a brand new product. It is the Arrtx Artist Soft Oil Pastels. They are artist quality, creamy texture, good for blending and mixing, fun to play. I did know these were on the way, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of do a project with them. They're made in China. Soft oil pastels. Let's flip it over. We've got our color chart here. This is kind of neat. I really like the stuff that Arrtx has come out with for the most part, so I'm excited to give this a try, take a look at it, and see what we have here. When the company reached out to me, they said that I would be one of the first people to try it in the country, so I'm kind of excited about that. We've got a nice packaging as always. Packaging that can be used as the storage, separated by foam. Looks like we've got a good selection of colors here. We've got a row of yellows going into orange. We've got some earth tones. We've got some blues, reds, pinks, and peaches. Pretty good assortment of greens. We've got a few purples. We've got some more earth tones. All right, that looks pretty cool. So what I think I'm going to do is I went to a little farm stand this weekend, and I picked up these peppers. I thought they looked really, really cool, and so I thought that would make a really fun still life. So I think I kind of like it like that. I don't know. It's always good to try it a few different ways. But I like being able to see the stem there. I also have this one too. It's got, looks like dirt on it. I haven't washed it off or anything. Or maybe it's just drying out. I'm not sure, but I thought this was a really interesting. But I don't know, do I want to have 4 things in there? That seems like it might be a lot. But then again, if I count the plate as a 5th thing, that might work. Let's try that. Alright, so we're going to leave that there. Let's get some paper. So we can do gray or we can do cream. I think I'll do gray because then if I want to put a plate on there, it'll give it a little bit of a contrast. I don't think I really need to tape it down for just this, so I'll just clip it onto my little board here. All right, let's start with the green. Green's a tricky color. Oftentimes, greens in oil pastels can be a little like gummy. I don't know why that is, so I'm just going to sketch our little. I don't know what kind of pepper that is. If you guys know what kind of peppers these are, please let me know in the comments below. I figured I'd just chop them up and put them in some chili and hope for the best. So if you know, let me know. So there's a basic shape. I'm just going to let these overhang in the box. You can kind of see the wear, how much wear is off that. I'm just going to leave that kind of overhang on the box there. Then let's go in with orange. Let's do... Oh, you know what? I'm not getting enough space. I think I'm gonna have to reconfigure my peppers. That's all right. You know what? Maybe. I'm thinking I'm gonna run out of space. I don't really like that composition though. Well, we'll make it work. We will make it work. Oh, Oops, I think I have that one a little too long, but that's alright. We'll just, these feel nice and creamy. And then, let's see, is that the way I want that one to be? I like how it's got this little curl. So maybe like that. Kind of start it in here. I don't know if I'll do the plate on there or not. All right, so we've got some basic shapes in here. So I think I'm going to go in first with the shadows for that one. And I think I'll actually do like a Prussian blue color. I'm just going by what I would call these names, not necessarily what the company calls the names here. I think I'm actually going to make that come up a little bit higher. Blend that color out with another stick. I think these might wear down pretty quickly because they are very soft, which is good. I mean, I like a soft pastel. They seem to be a little more opaque than the Paul Rubens. They feel very similar to the Mungio Gallery. Lay down is smooth, and I'm using the Canson XL Sand Grain Dry Mixed Media paper, which isn't a sanded paper, but it's got a rough texture to it. Kind of pebbly. It doesn't hurt your fingers to blend on it or anything. Just kind of a pebbly paper. I'm going to try blending with a little makeup applicator. I usually just use my fingers, but I'm kind of curious as to how these would blend with that because they are so soft. Oh, pretty well. So if you do, you definitely want to keep these just for your oil pastels, any one that you've used with oil pastels, and the same goes for soft pastels or decorator's chalks or whatever, because if you went with to blend chalk with, or a soft pastel with something you've used an oil pastel with, it would just kind of make a gummy mess and would not be very nice. You can use colored pencils to sharpen up edges on your oil pastels too, if you need to have a little more detail. I like the Arrtx oil pastel colored pencils as well. I hear they're coming out with a bigger set of 120, I think. But I would wait till the end probably to do that. I mean, go in with a pencil. All right, I like that. I feel like I've got some good depth there. Now I'm going to go in with that. I think I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow down here. A little bit up there. Then mixing some of this lighter color in there. I like the coverage. Coverage is really nice. And then we'll go in, I think this is the one that I used to originally sketch it in. I'm getting a little bit of a, almost like it's picking up the pastel. And also a little bit of green on that end. Oop, that laid down pretty good. That green is really nice in there anyway. So I really liked using the makeup applicator, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. I'll try to remember to link these makeup applicators. It's like a box of, what is it, 200? 120. And I think it's around $7 on Amazon. But with that many, you don't have to worry about, like, you can have some for you can reuse them for your oil. Like, if I'm using oil pastels, I'll just have a different end for a different color and a different, applicator until they shred. I'll just keep using them with the colors that I've used with them previously. I like the kind of painterly effect that I can get here. One of these colors wants to lift up off the paper. I'm not sure which one, but it almost wants to kind of ball off of it. That's kind of weird. I think it's one of the oranges. We'll see if it causes us any problems or if it's just a little bit of a quirk. All right. A little bit of this red, the same red I used on the other pepper, onto the edges for some shading. And I'll blend it out with the red side since I got it right there. Some people use Q-tips. I think they might be more prone to shredding on you, but a lot of people use them. You wouldn't be able to use them for too long, for you'd have to throw them away, but if you already have them, that's an option. All right, let's move to the more yellowy orange pepper. So I'm going to go into that same yellow first, and I think it might be the, you know what? I think it's the yellow. Look at how it's skipping. Yep, I think it's the yellow that was giving us that kind of lifting up. Could be because of the transparency. Sometimes, and it's often with greens, you get a color that's really transparent, and that's the one that kind of gives you some trouble as you're trying to layer. This is kind of a first impressions. I intend to review this set, but in case I don't get to, or whatnot, you'll be able to see it in action here. I've only used a few brands of oil pastels. The Sennelier would be my favorite, but they're so expensive that it's kind of tough to justify using them for just fooling around, and also to recommend them where they are so expensive. And honestly, there are some really good ones. Oil pastels is kind of like gouache. There's a lot of well-performing sets that are not that expensive. They're probably not light fast, but it just depends on what your needs are. I think that yellow, I might put a little mark on that stick, because I think that's really causing some gumming issues. It's the only one from all the colors we've tried so far that we've had that issue. I'm using my finger. These feel actually quite firm when I'm using my finger to blend. I enjoy trying new products. I'm going to just kind of wipe off the extra pastel on there, because I think I've got some of that yellow on there that's being a little problematic. But, I mean, if you do get a set of something and there's one color you don't like, there's no law saying you have to use it. A lot of times products are more affordable in sets, like per piece. So, sometimes you buy a set of something and there's something in there you don't like. I'm not sure how much these are going to sell for either, because I just got them in the mail and I don't believe they're for sale yet. Let's try another yellow though and see if we run into that same issue. Sadly, that seems to be the only real warm, strong yellow. There is kind of like a Naples yellow here, but that's it's not really what I want yet. But let's this one does not appear to be gummy like that. Or maybe the yellows need to be added on after, but that seems smooth. I'm not having any issues there. You know what? Let's try layering up this warm yellow and just see if maybe it's a situation where it does feel a little sticky. I don't know. Maybe it's probably a situation. Don't use that as a base layer, maybe. Kind of work into it. I like the strokes, the textures there. This might be a nice shadow color. My shape is completely different now than what we started off as, but that happens sometimes. These peppers are 25 cents a piece at the farm stand. And I bought them with the notion of doing a still life. I wasn't even sure what medium I was going to do it in, but I'm like, I think that would be really cool. It almost looks like a Chinese lantern. Now that color was really smooth. I like this paper for oil pastels. It's the same Canson XL sand grain I've been using for all my pastel month tutorials. I just wanted to keep it really simple for people, so they wouldn't have to go and buy a bunch of different papers. They could use whatever pastels they had. But paper, I feel like that's something that, like, you might not have the same pastels as your teacher, but if you have the same paper, it's a lot easier. Because I feel like a lot of the variables come down to the paper. Alright, I like how that's kind of painterly and fun. Now we're going to block in the green. Let's see. This is kind of a neat looking... oh wow, that's really opaque. That kind of highlight going on in there. This kind of medium. This is the one we sketched with. The one I was worried would be gummy, but it's not gummy. It's fun to take a break from your normal routine of media and try something different, because I think that, you know, one informs the other. If you try something different, especially if you're starting to feel like you're in a rut, or you're getting stuck, or you're just not improving in your chosen media. Because everyone wants to see improvement. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it or how good you get. Now this one's gummy. This green is, look at that. This green is not sticking. It's just balling up. That's something that happened to the Paul Rubens pastels. That the green, yeah, this green is not. It's because it's a real transparent color, I think. I'm going to scribble it out. Yeah, that's a bummer. That's exactly what I was wondering. That's what I was looking for when I put the other one down, that I was going to do that. But pastels that have more white in them, and you can see how opaque that first green we laid down was. When they have more white in them, for whatever reason, they tend to lay down more smoothly, and that's just gumming up, and that's kind of a bummer, because that's hard to work with. Now keep in mind, you're just getting my first impressions here. I might do these for 4 more paintings and then be like, oh, the green's not such a big deal. That's why I don't do reviews on the first time I use something. I should have probably put that dark green down first. I'm gonna use my fingers to blend. I feel like I have so much on there, and my fingers will have a lot more pressure than the foam blending thing, so I can get those little bits of gumminess and I can press them down and force them in with the other pigments, whereas like a little blending sponge really wouldn't have much effect against that. I think what I'll do is get some colored pencils. I'm going to get the Arrtx colored pencils, might as well use those together, and bring in a little detail, and then we'll carry on from there. Alright, I'm going to use these colored pencils here. These are the Arrtx colored pencils. I'm going to set them off to the side. And I'm just going to grab a color I think will work pretty well for sharpening up the edges here. And I'm going to put in any little details that I need, but mostly I'm just trying to sharpen things up a little bit. The pastel will ball up against the edge of the pencil, so I might want to kind of like wipe it off on my scrap pad here that I'm working on. And I'm using my reference there as a guide because it's not going to be exactly the same, because, you know, pastels kind of smoosh out sometimes. I find that I don't paint as well when I'm narrating than when I, you know, just do it, you know, concentrating, and then, ooh, it does pick up, see that? It picks up a lot of stuff. Oh, I set my focus. I set my focus on my paper already, so that probably wouldn't be in focus. Oh, I should have some more. Some more pronounced bumps. I wish I didn't draw the stem on there, because then I could have been a little bit more expressive with it, but it's kind of stuck to where I put it with the pastel. Oh well. You could do sgraffito with the colored pencils, kind of like scrape back, and then you'll just see a little bit of a stain on the paper, but it can help you get that kind of nice texture that the peppers have, that kind of shiny, plasticky texture. I hope the white does well. I hope it's a good white. I like the Paul Rubens white. It's a nice white. I bought a pack of those at one point. I like the sgraffito technique using pencils. I think that's going to work out pretty well. Alright, I could go ahead and add... Don't want to add that stem on yet. I'm going to make it overlap that pepper, which is something that was kind of bothering me before, that I didn't have overlapping elements. I'm just going to go in and fill that in a little bit. Smooth out the edge. This is a thick stem that just kind of comes out. Like that. I try to scrape some of that red out of there. I'm going to turn this around. That is a very straight look to it. Turn it back because you couldn't see the end. When I had that turned towards me, I could actually see where the stem inserts into the pepper. I didn't want to show that because I like that green though, because that's not how you'd see it in this perspective. I'm not doing cubism. That really wants to scrape up that, but I will use it to my advantage. This one's not as wrinkly as the others, so I think I'll just do the edges with that. Let me go with something a little bit darker. That's not quite dark enough. I think I almost need like a rust color, and neither of those are that. This one's pretty good, I think. You might have to go just on the outside if you're trying to smooth out something. Get a nice line. I love using pencil and pastel together. I don't think I like that right there. I'm going to smudge that back out. I don't think I like this graffito on this pepper because it's not so wrinkly. It's not as wrinkly as the others. So I'm going to there. Now we'll go with this color. Maybe I always feel like I need a darker color than what the thing I'm drawing is when I'm going with pencil over oil pastel. It's like you need the extra pigmentation to bite into it. I'm also trying not to set my hands in this, but in fact, you know what? I'm going to get a piece of deli paper. So I can rest my hand down there. Oh, this one's nice. This one's working well in this. Probably best to sharpen up your edge first, because your pencil will pick up a lot of that. I think I'll make that actually tuck underneath. Yeah, make it tuck right underneath the edge of that, and then we'll have another overlapping area. I'm not crazy how straight that is, so let me see how I can shape that up a little bit. I think I'll just bring it up a little bit in here and then bring it back. I like that. All right. And then go with a little bit of a darker pastel, like this brown that we used before. And bring it in there. So bring it in there a little bit and down in there. And light. light strokes that just kind of skim the paper. So we can get that a little bit of a withered, wrinkly texture. Pastels are setting up pretty good. They're not, I mean, they're smudgy when you want to smudge them, and they're not out of control. Okay, now, little pastel piece there. I want to work on that. I kind of want to scrape out, I'm seeing if I have I want to scrape out some of that pastel. I just grabbed what was handy, a paintbrush. Alright, I think I'll go ahead and get that stem in. I'm going to use this green, because this one was not streaky. And let's see. Sharpen up the edges. Oh yeah, that should curl back actually. I think I need a darker, like a purple or a wine color. Prismacolors work really well for this technique with oil pastels. They're just that touch bit softer. So if you have Prismacolors, I would just go ahead and use those. Deli paper works like a tracing paper because it's so stick resistant. I'm just going to make that go underneath. Oh, I scraped back to the blue, that's why that's so dark. I wonder what happened if I went in with a white, because I don't think it would lay down any color, but it might scratch out color really well. This one's so wrinkly, but I don't think that's really going to do anything. I'm just going to end up dirtying that pencil up. Maybe this color would work good. And then wherever... Oh, that one's actually sticking on top in some spots. Keep doing the sgraffito technique, just kind of carving back. Almost a random pattern just to get that kind of leathery texture. Some jagged edges, show the crinkles in the skin. Okay. All right, let's see. I need kind of a shadow color for the red. I'm going to go back in with that kind of Prussian blue color. I need a brighter red. I'm wondering how this would do. Let's show. Oh, that's a nice color. It's a nice bright red. I want to put it down kind of choppy to get the kind of get the texture, show the wrinkles. So I'm just kind of like scribbling and wiggling it. It's not really an orangey vibe in there, but I don't want it to go pink. I want a highlight that's not going to get pink on me. I wonder if I used a really light blue, that might be better than using white. Oh, I think that'll work. I'm just almost rolling this across the surface. I'm going to wipe that off before I put it back because that is such a light color. I still feel like I need more red in there. I need some other red dimension. Maybe just kind of going a little bit with that. And then I'm going to go ahead and work on the stem. Oof, this is kind of gumming up. Back to a pencil. See what I can do with this pencil. I mostly just scrape stuff up. I might have too much stuff on there. We'll let that set up a little bit and come back to it, I think. For this one, let's go a little bit on there. And then I'm going to blend it. Blend it with my colored pencil. I don't want the ghosting. I see like a little spare. Oh, must have drew with a lighter pencil or something. I see a little bit of ghosting of another color there. Alright, now let's see some highlights on this one. I think we could go with a really, really buttery pale yellow or white even. I'm going to try the buttery pale yellow, kind of save my whites for last. Oh, I don't think that's actually bright enough. I think I do need the white, but I'll get a little bit in there. Actually put a little bit over here too. This one doesn't have as many. Doesn't have as many highlights. But this one I think needs the actual white if it will stick. Which little choppy staccato strokes here of stippling. And I think the green's also going to need the white. Just wipe off any offending other colors. The wrinkles on this are much more linear. There's actually a secondary, like a cast highlight that's a little bit more pale, so I'm going to go and see, maybe do that in like this color here, which actually looks very white. Maybe go a little bit brighter. Oh, try this one. There's a lot of tints in this set, which makes it makes the pastels feel a little creamy. A little more creamy than all brights. The more vibrant colors tend to be more transparent and tend to feel less creamy. I feel like I need a little bit more yellow in there. Or a yellow type of color. I'm going to clean that one off too. And I will be getting rid of this paper. I can usually get a couple paintings out of a paper, scrap paper. And then the stem. I'm going to try adding that to that stem as well. I want to have a little more green in that stem. I like to jump around too while I'm working. And then I would just wrap this in that same paper I was using, not, well, a fresh sheet of it, but that same deli paper that I was using. And that's how I would store it. You can sculpt the pastel with your pencil, which I'm doing here, which is kind of fun. You can add extra little folds and wrinkles. You can scrape back to that first lighter layer. You can see that yellow coming through. That's just me scraping back to the stain on the paper, really. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes it's frustrating, you know, like, oh, I forgot that I'd red underneath that, so when I scratch back I get red and not green. But mostly it's a lot of fun to do this. I might do my shadows in colored pencil. I want to get this little stem. Hopefully I can. And I'm just gonna go for it. And then I'll go over that with that green that was working really well for us. And try to refine it a little bit with a pencil. I'm not crazy about that stem, but maybe give it a little bit more of an end. And maybe I can do a bit of a highlight. Oh, that helps. Almost all of our elements are making contact, which I think is kind of nice. I'm going to bring this over just a little bit. Ooh, that was probably the wrong red. That's alright, I'll use it in a couple different places and get it integrated there. That is so really thick. I'm wondering if I can just kind of sculpt that a little bit. And I might go in with the white as a last resort, because we used the blue for that highlight, remember? I feel like there's a lot of crumbs on that. I'm going to see if I can tap some of those crumbs off, because that's kind of messy. I don't worry so much about blowing oil pastel crumbs as I do soft pastel crumbs, because they are not that fine. Ah, yeah, we're at the greasy stage. It's nice if you can stop before you get to the greasy stage. A little bit of a highlight on this though, maybe. Alright, I'm going to try some highlights on the pepper with the bright white. Again, this kind of staccato. Alright, now I want to put in a cast shadow, I think, but let me clean up my space, and then when we come back we will do that and finish it up. Alright, something I did when I turned the camera off was actually took my kneaded eraser and pressed it down on the crumbs, and see, that's going to pick up quite a bit, and then you still just clean it up like you normally would, just stretch it and pull it to clean the eraser. But that really helped with a lot of the messy crumbs that I had going on. And I chose some colors to use in my shadows, and I chose this kind of like plummy purple, this teal blue, gray, and a black. And the reason why is the blue is going to make the orange and the reds pop, because it's kind of a greenish blue. And the purple I think is going to look really nice with all the yellow undertones. It's also an opposite. Then I got black and gray just for, you know, kind of a basic tonal value there. Also what I want to do is set these right on my paper, because I have this dish where it's shiny is going to mess up my shadows. It's going to throw the shadows different ways. Now I have several studio lights in here, which will make it kind of difficult because I'll have shadows coming from different directions. So I think I'll probably just see how that one has a pretty strong shadow on that side. I think I will kind of use this to go by as far as the main shadow, and I'll just try to pick out the shadows that agree with that one. Like I said, there's like 3 shadows on each of these just because of all my studio lights, but I think I'll be able to manage it that way. I'm going to start off with the gray, and I'm going to just kind of throw in a very loose shadow. I'm actually going to slide that out of the way so my arm can rest here on the table. You can see the grain of the paper. Oh yes, and what I need to do is actually look at my drawing and not the, not so much my reference, just because my shape's a little bit different, and bring it up to the end where it touches, and then the shadow kind of disappears there. So I'm just going to fill that in. This paper is nice and textured. It's got a nice uniform. Is it uniform the right word? It's not. It's not a repetitive texture, but it is kind of an all over, fairly uniform but not repetitive texture, I guess I should say. It's very organic, a very organic texture, and actually this should be out a little bit more because it's a little bit thicker at the top and it's raised up a little bit. So I'm going to start by doing a shadow like that. I'm just looking as to where I see this one. And this can be confusing, so what I would recommend if you're doing this at home, obviously you don't need to have quite so many lights because you're not filming. If you put if you have a desk lamp where you can adjust this, like the direction of the lamp, and you could put the desk lamp so it's like shooting a very, you know, a very specific, you know, from one direction, kind of right on your still life, that is really going to help you find that shadow and be able to do a good job with that, because you'll be able to see it a lot better. And also, I notice the shadows get a little bit lighter as they go further across. Although these are all pretty close together, so you shouldn't have too many. You know, the shadow should be hitting them fairly the same. And if you get into some... And you could do this in pastels too. I mean, this is just a little bit easier where I've kind of... I'm doing it at the last step instead of like the blocking in step. If you did it when you were blocking in with pastels, it'd be a little easier because then you could just kind of smear the edge in to the pepper underneath where the other colors would go. But okay, so here we actually have a little bit on the side here, coming around a little bit, disappearing. Then we got oh shoot. I'm going to see if I can lift up. Nice thing about gray paper though is like if you do get a little bit of a smudge or a stain, it doesn't show up quite as bad. There. I don't like to use a regular eraser though because I don't like crumbs. I'll have to brush away because little crumbs might get stuck in the pastel. Because oil pastel is very sticky. Alright, now I'm going to layer up some other colors. I think I will go in really close to the objects with a little bit of black first, to make sure I can get that darker value down. Pull it up from the... It'll help pick it up from the paper a little bit, give it a little bit of a three-dimensional look. Ah, where did my paper go? Oop, I forgot the stem on this one. That one just kind of has a little bit of... That's darkest right next to that edge there and there. Alright, now I'm going to add in some teals. You could smooth this out with some mineral spirits if you wanted to. Some of these pencils reactivate with water. It depends on what brand you have. Some even though they're not like watercolor pencils, actually reactivate with water a bit. Do a little bit of purple in there just to give us a little bit more color. You could take as much time with this as you want to. Don't feel like you have to rush. And if I'm going too fast, you can always pause it and work at your own pace, obviously. I'm more just to kind of get you the steps and the ideas so you'll be able to go on and do whatever you like there in the future. So I'm just kind of evaluate now and see, okay, what else do we need to have? I don't necessarily think it would be a bad idea to go in and add some mineral spirits and smooth that out, to be honest. Actually, I got some paint thinner. Why don't I grab that? I think I'd like to try that. I just need to get a stiff brush that is appropriate. And do I have any clean? I must have some clean thinner here somewhere. Yes, I do. Got some Gamsol right here and an oil painting brush. I'm just going to pour, actually I'll pour a little bit into the cap. Because I'm not in my main filming room. I'll wash that out a little bit. It's alright if it gets soft on the edges because... Oh, and by the way, it's looking darker than it is just because it's wet. When it dries out, you won't see that. It won't be that dark. I don't know if you can hear the soothing rain or not, but it just started raining while we were painting. Yeah, I think smoother will work better in this situation. I didn't really like seeing the grain of the paper after having such a thick application of the oil pastels. Hope it doesn't look like that brush is going to poke you in the face because it's a long-handled one. An easel painting brush, really. You can use mineral spirits with your oil pastels as well. If you feel like you want to dissolve something or sharpen an edge. Or blend some things together that weren't blending. Big difference between your oil pastels and your oil paints is just that The pastels don't dry. They don't go through that chemical change. They just kind of stay forever, forever movable. It will set up a bit, but that's why you gotta put them under glass. Okay, so my final adjustments. I'll wash that brush out with paint thinner. In my paint thinner bucket. I'm not going to waste this for washing brushes. I have some salt brush cleaner I use. My last bits of adjustment. I feel like I need a shadow on this where both a highlight on the edge of the stem and then a shadow underneath it. What should I use for a shadow? You know what, maybe I'll just go in with black because I think it's just going to mix with what I already have there, so I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. And I might as well just keep on going with this as needed. I don't like to use black that much, but sometimes you just need that little bit of strength. And I think I'm going to call it done. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you give it a try. Find something in your kitchen to sketch, and yeah, I'll pop a photo of this all done with it all dried, basically, so you can see how the shadows turned out once they dried. And that will do it from me. Please give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying these pastel month videos. I have my soft pastel for beginners class on sale 50% off through the month of September 2022. The link will be in the video description with the coupon code PASTEL50 over on my Teachable School. That deals with soft pastels, not oil pastels, which is what we're using here, just to be completely clear, because I don't want you to, if you're only an oil pastel user, I wouldn't recommend the class just because it's mostly dealing with soft pastels, so you wouldn't get as much out of it unless you were using soft pastels. But yeah, other than that, have a wonderful day and happy crafting!